Real quickly before we begin, I want to thank this video's sponsor, CarMarshal.com. CarMarshal.com can save you lots of money on buying used or new vehicles, cars, trucks, school buses. If you want to save money, I'll have a link in the description down below.
And I sent it to Chris Hopkins, and he called me back right away. Okay, I yield. Showtime.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the May 2nd, 2018 We the People Meeting in Assembly conference call. We meet every week, like-minded individuals working towards re-establishing government centered under our constitutions, and in particular, getting ourselves organized at a county and a statewide level in order to re-implement our assembly meetings. We have some very simple rules. If you ask for the floor, if you want to speak, you need to ask for the floor by saying, "May I?" after the previous speaker completes their speaking. And once you're recognized by the floor, please get to your point as succinctly as possible. And when you finish, please say, "I yield." And it's the "may I" and the "I yield" that leads towards keeping the call organized, and so that only one people is speaking at a time, and we can get some business done. I would like to start by just bringing you up to speed on some of the news, and then we'll branch into a couple other subjects, and then we'll do an open mic session. First, I'd like to mention that unfortunately there was a free man from Montana by the name of John Lamb. And I talked with John, and he was completely free, out of the system completely. I asked him, "John, how did you ever do that?" And he said, "Well, my grandfather figured it out, and he taught my father, and then my father taught me." So he doesn't have a driver's license, doesn't have a Social Security number or anything. Stays completely out of the system. Well, when the Bundys came under attack for the trial in Oregon and in Nevada, John got up from Montana and got in his car and gave us day by day, hour by hour reporting on the web about what was really going on. And without that effort, it would have been very hard for us to figure out really what was happening. Apparently, late last week, John was injured badly in a head-on collision with an 18-wheel truck, and broken bones, internal bleeding, etc. But fortunately, it appears that no brain injury or head injury, at least recognizable yet. So our best wishes go out to him and his family. He's a true patriot, a real courageous guy. It makes me wonder whether it was truly an accident or not, because he was really helpful in communicating to the whole patriot community. But if you do have any time, look up John and send him a card or a donation or whatever you can to help him and his family. In addition, I learned recently, I think it was Friday, that in Nevada, our own Floridian, Joaquin DiMoretta, was in an accident. He was T-boned when a 16-year-old kid driving a Camry went through a stop sign and hit him full speed. So according to Joaquin, he's very lucky that the airbags went off and really saved damaging his head, or it would have been much, much worse. Next subject, Andrew Sheets from Charlotte County had put in, on behalf of Charlotte County, Florida, COPWATCH, a request for documents and records from the Charlotte County government of all of the busts that had taken place at the address of the UPS distribution center that was associated with my brother's arrest late last year, December 27th. And in response, the records people told Andrew that there were 87 emails that are responsive, but that because for some reason he didn't use the right words, they only gave him one. And we're not sure what that really means. And initially it sounds to us like if they have 87 emails that there may be other victims, but we don't know yet. So we're trying to figure out how to move the ball forward and get the records. And Andrew's going to try a couple of things, and then I think we're going to have to ask the grand jury administrators to consider an order to produce the records. Now, first and foremost, I'd like to remind everybody, because we've covered a lot of subjects and it's been quite a while since we reviewed this, that the grand jury is really based on primarily on Article 61 of the Magna Carta. And there's about 4 or 5 important articles in the Magna Carta. Article 14, which says basically that when it comes time for taxes, you hold a public meeting and whoever comes decides on the taxes for the county. Article 48, which is all about eliminating the evil customs in the county using the 12 sworn knights that are secret. Article 52, and then Article 61 about the grand jury and due process. So what I propose we do to just keep everybody up to date on remembering how important the Magna Carta is in delivering the rule of law and justice to our society, I'd ask that I will send out a link to a book called The Magna Carta with Commentary by McKechnie. I would ask that next week we ask for volunteers to just go over once again at least those 4, 14, 48, 52, and 61. And then I'd like to move on for this part of the call and mention that we've gained more people on the team, and they should hopefully be participating in the call, from Anna von Rietz's referrals to the different states that people are going to her website or learning of her writing and then deciding that they want to become active in the effort to do their state assembly.
Roger, if I may?
Yes.
Also look at clause number 40. To no one will we sell, to no one will deny or delay the right or justice.
Great.
In other words, there's no attorneys are involved in making any money at this. Nobody makes money at this.
Good point.
So if they please look at that. It's so important. It's one little sentence, a few words, but it means a lot.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. I yield.
Okay, what I'd like to do is propose the following. We need to get our state assembly up and running. We've been doing these calls for a while. We know basically from the help that the Michigan folks have given us the 10 steps to get the assembly up and running. What I would propose we do is ask for an organizing committee to be established, and that we have 5 people volunteer to be on the organized committee, and they elect a team leader, and we ask that that group work towards laying out a plan in consultation with others on the call, but laying out a plan to hold a statewide We the People meeting and assembly meeting in the very near future. Any comments or questions about that proposal?
May I?
Yes, please.
Okay, and the reason we're doing this is so we can understand the importance of Magna Carta, because basically the government and the lawyers and everybody is going to try to tell us that it basically doesn't exist or doesn't apply, blah, blah, blah. So one of the parts of our education here, and even educating me, is if somebody would do an action, a complaint on the government for anything, and as we referred to the Magna Carta, part of our education would be how do we present the Magna Carta in a credible way so they will accept that the Magna Carta is part of the game. I yield.
Generally, the answer to that question is, so far at least, we take particular aspects of the Magna Carta that are pertinent to a given situation, and we pull them out of the document and separate them and bring the public servant's attention and or the law enforcement people's attention to those words. And they then, in addition, there's a document called the Confirmatio Cartarum in 1297 that confirms that the Magna Carta is part of common law. And then there's a statute in Florida statutes that Florida is a common law state. So when we link those things together, it produces a very strong argument, number one. Number two, the public servant is put on notice. Now they have no excuse to not comply with the Magna Carta.
Okay, I mean, that sounds fine, but imagine that I went ahead and filed something at Orange County courts about them trafficking me into being a sovereign citizen. So if I went ahead and filed a complaint or whatever, I would probably have to file a motion in the court, make sure that the Magna Carta is part of our procedure constitution.
If I may, can I answer that?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay, we're not talking about going into statutory courts. We're talking about our own court. Or the.
You're fading out.
I'm sorry. We're talking about the grand jury. We're not talking about filing motions or anything else in the statutory court. If you're going to do that, you're going to lose.
Do you yield?
That's not common law. They're not going to follow common law. They'll always try to drag you back into their jurisdiction.
Okay, I since we only have an hour in this meeting, I don't want to belabor this, but I would entertain something I think we could all get educated on is a step-by-step procedure on what we would do.
Okay, step-by-step procedures on WeThePeopleCommonLawGrandJury.com.
Okay, well, I took care of that.
Okay. I yield.
I yield.
And let me emphasize what Chris said, and I will say it with different words. In essence, what we've learned is that what we thought was a court system is not a court system. It is a commercial debt collection system. Has nothing to do with justice or the rule of law. So trying to go in there and convince them to all of a sudden change their processes and procedures and follow the rule of law, including the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Articles of Confederation, etc., is going to be probably a very, very long and ultimately unsuccessful effort. So instead, we must reestablish our own grand juries. And remember, the grand jury is the one element that has both the authority and the responsibility to reach into both jurisdictions, the statutory domain and the common law domain. And it can therefore be the one tool to communicate the need to follow the rule of law and stay in compliance with a public servant's oath of office. So you would not, if you wanted to do the Magna Carta, you cannot go into their system and try to impress it on their system. That is not going to work. A lot of people have tried getting the Constitution even to be followed, and it's a privately owned for-profit company that runs these courts. It is not the government. These are not constitutionally lawful courts. So let's just not go there. Let's stay as far enough away as we can and reconstruct the system that the founders gave us, that we and our ancestors let go by the boards.
May I?
Yes.
Well, the document of the Confirmatio Cartorum is a document, is an order to the courts of the United States that in any way, any judgment contrary to Magna Carta or the Charter is null and void. So you need to serve the court of the United States with that document from the beginning. So you tell them, look, any judgment that you have that is contrary to this is null and void. That's your beginning. You need to show them that document and file it on their court. But then, at the same time that you are filing that in that court, you are claiming jurisdiction, telling them that you will go according to the clause 52 of the Magna Carta, wherein any judgment without the grand jury of your peers is null and void, and that the final word is in the 25 jurors. So with that two documents and that Magna Carta clause 52, you are telling them that you have jurisdiction through common law, which is in the Constitution Amendment 7, that no fact tried by the jury shall be reexamined in any court of the United States. And then you start playing cards and telling first, in order to start talking, please provide me, I hereby demand your oath of office, your surety bond, and your residence for the faithful performance of your duties. You need to give me your property that you own joint with your wife for the faithful performance of your duties, and that property need to be not exempt to be executed in legal process. With that simple step in writing, filing in their jurisdiction, you're telling them that you have the jurisdiction and the 25 grand jurors have the final word. I bet you he don't want to play cards with you. I yield.
Okay, I'd like to clarify one thing. I think in the beginning you mentioned that the Confirmatio Cartorum applied to the U.S. court system. And are you saying that from the de jure point of view or towards the de facto corporate courts?
You are the de jure, and you are telling that to the de facto courts in writing.
In writing.
But in order to have that, you have first to have a victim, a crime. And you need to have a demand from the victim to amend with no delay in 40 days the crimes committed against him. He got to file that with an affidavit and with a demand to amend with no delay to the common law jurisdiction, to the common law grand jurors, to the administrators. And from that point, the administrators will investigate that crime, and then it's the administrators who will go to the de facto and tell them the first step is, look, we have a demand from a victim, therefore we are here in their behalf. From now on, you don't talk to the victim, you talk to the administrators, and then to start with, the administrator will ask them for their papers, that they are who they are. If they are a judge, they need to own property and they need to have insurance, and that property needs to be jointly with the spouse. And from there, once he filed those documents, then you can tell them the presentment. Then you present the crime to them. And if they don't want to fix it, then the administrators go and call the 24 or the 21, depending. If it's 4 administrators, will be 21. And if 1 administrator, will be 24. So we'll make the number 25. And from there, no matter what they said, the final word is on the 25. And they never want to play in that jurisdiction because they know that it's designed from our founding fathers, so we will always win, and they don't. And they sign it in writing. That is the supreme law of the land. They sign it in writing, all the judges and all the officers in the 3 branches. They signed it that they agree. And that matched perfectly with the Constitution for the United States of America. I yield.
Any questions for Joaquin? Mark, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I got a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. As we're going to extend this about the common law grand jury, what would be an easy, winnable example we could do? I was thinking of the sovereign citizen deal, but anything that would be a slam dunk win, because, you know, I talk about the common law grand jury to every person that has cognitive thinking I can get my hands on. But I would like to, they're always saying, well, show me something. So I would like to somehow get a win somewhere, somehow, and then it would be easier to attract more people to this.
Well, your sample, you already saw it. It is in Charlotte County, and we went over there. We filed the documents, and everybody went mute on the de facto side. That's your win. I yield.
So, okay, that sounds good, but I've got to get a win right here in like every county. And I think the thing that just keeps coming to me, as Andrew talked about in Charlotte County, how they put everybody on a sovereign citizen list, and I would think that would be trafficking.
No.
Yield?
Well, if they put you in the sovereign list, like you said, we don't go by hearsay. We go by facts. You need to provide me that list with your name and in writing and sign it by that officer, that sheriff, or that deputy sheriff, or that office of the sheriff's department. We cannot go by hearsay that say what say. We go by facts. If you have that list that you are by them name as sovereign, then you can fight back. But you got to have first that in writing and sealed by the sheriff or by the deputy. From then, you can go and fight back in writing with the demand to amend. You write to the grand jury administrators, and the administrators first thing will look your document that is legit. And like we did in Charlotte, we have a document. We have a citation from the sheriff, and we have an order of arrest of the victim, David Dowdell. We took that document, and we went to the sheriff and we said, look, we have this in writing from you. So now we want to fight back, and we said, give me your oath of office and your properties.
Right.
And they failed. Right there you win the case because they did not answer. It's a felony when an officer is demanded to produce his oath of office when required, and when he don't, that's your felony crime against them. And then you go step by step with the process in writing and filing and doing the service through legal process service. You serve them in writing under oath and tell them, demand them for those documents. When they quiet, and look, I received your email, Mark, that email that you sent about the sovereign. Why you waste your time on something that person is saying that is anonymous, that he's scared to say who is he? Don't pay attention to that. It's fake news, it's wasting your time, and it's taking your attention from where you need to aim to win. You never pay attention to somebody who is scared to tell his name. Why? You're not going nowhere. Why you give them credibility? Go to the people who have name, who have address, and who have a house that they can lose. You watch. They will not tell you that if they know that you know the law. I yield.
So, Mark, another way to think about what Joaquin just said, I believe, is to put out the word to the folks in your county that you're interested in getting the county grand jury going, and you're interested in talking to victims of the judicial abuse that's going on in Orange County. And when you get someone that does want to move forward with the grand jury and engage, then we get the 4 administrators up and running, and we have that victim file a demand to amend with no delay, and that begins the process. And between myself and Hagan and Chris and others, we will do the training and the support necessary to make sure that the folks in Orange County execute the steps in the process lawfully and correctly.
Okay, that sounds great. I would have to say the most exciting thing that's really happening is what's going on in Charlotte County, and thanks to Andrew, he was the one that sent in a FOIA act for asking anybody that was on the sovereign citizen list. And he got back an impressive list, and he's going from police department to police department in the county, and he's getting more and more. It's getting really interesting. But I don't want to take up the meeting tonight. But I am real excited in what's going to happen with David Dell, the procedure, if we can talk about that at all.
The only thing we can talk about right now about the process is the latest step was Andrew, through the Freedom of Information Act, like I mentioned earlier on the call, did get in response to his request. They said they have 87 emails that are responsive, but they only sent him my brother's information. In that package, though, there is a write-up, which I saw for the first time, by the undercover de facto agent who explained the whole system that was used for the entrapment. And it's very, very clear from this evidence that UPS is cooperating with the Sheriff's Department in entrapping folks. Beyond that, we don't have anything else to talk about. That I will circulate and send out so everybody can see it.
Is that coordinating UPS or is that collaborating?
Well, I don't know the definition difference between those two words.
Well, what it is they're working illegally. Anyhow, I go ahead. I yield. That's great. Thank you.
I think it's both. I think they're collaborating and coordinating.
Person that's working there and they're blackmailing them to do it. That's what I would gather.
Okay, let's see. Any more questions about the grand jury and the Magna Carta?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Hi, Roger. It's Chad.
Hi, John.
Hi, how you doing? The 4 administrators for the grand jury, who's going to be, is there any way to remove one if one is, a bad actor? Is it only, well, that's the first question.
Sure. It's up to the people. The grand jury, if you read, the best place that I've seen is the court case, Supreme Court case, U.S. versus Williams, 1992. It's clear that the grand jury is owned by the people, so the people must police it. And if a bad actor starts breaching the common law as an administrative investigator, it's the responsibility of the other investigators and or the other jurists to discipline him and or take him off the the job.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I appreciate the confirmation on that. Thank you, Roger. I yield.
Okay, any other questions about the Magna Carta or the grand jury? If not, I'd like to go on to the item that I started asking people for feedback on, a proposal that we establish a 5-person organizing committee for holding a Florida statewide We the People meeting and assembly event. And I'd like to ask your feedback about setting up such a committee of volunteers, 5 of them, and then those 5 would get together and do more detailed planning and elect amongst themselves a team leader and propose a draft plan for holding an actual statewide assembly in the near future on the land in Florida. And that's separate from the Magna Carta and the grand jury. We're talking assembly now. We the people meeting in assembly, and the purpose of this is to get organized as such by passing resolutions, that those resolutions that get debated, amended, and passed become the voice of the people to the state legislature and all of the appointed and elected officials. Any comments on my proposal?
I'm all for it.
May I?
We're all for it.
You gotta ask to be.
Yes, Pam.
Yeah, Roger. So you're not just looking for someone to coordinate the event. You're looking for, if I'm understanding what you just said, someone to do resolutions also, unless I'm not quite understanding that. Could you please?
No, I'm looking for an organizing committee.
Okay, so like someone to coordinate assemblies. Is that correct?
Yeah, and to lay out an agenda and to get organized. We need volunteers for specific jobs, like putting notices out in all the important places so we get the awareness up that the assembly is taking place, and making sure that we get the right officials privately in this assembly elected to be the moderator, the scribe, the different offices that the Michigan folks have mentioned that we need to fill. Find a location, a suitable date, do all of the groundwork to make sure that we get it organized so we can execute it.
Okay, well, I thank you. I yield.
Anybody?
May I?
Yes.
Thomas. That sounds like a really good idea, but I don't hear anybody jumping up and going, I'll be one of the 5 at this point. Why don't you put that on an email to everyone and see if you find 5 volunteers for basically the steering committee that you're suggesting, so that it can get organized and find a location, notices, as you said, to the proper people. That's just my suggestion, and I agree with you. The steering committee in that respect for the people of Florida to organize the first assembly is a great idea. We're an agenda. Everything will be set out and voted on by that committee, and also one leader of the committee to run the first assembly meeting. I yield.
Okay, I will send out an email in accordance with Thomas's suggestion, and I'd ask people that are willing to volunteer to work on the committee to organize this event to get back with me and see if we can put together a team of 5 that could then move the ball forward.
If I may?
Yes.
I motion the meeting to nominate Thomas as the director. I stand down.
I accept.
Thank you, Thomas.
All right. Accept it. Everybody accept that? We need
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Yeas or nays, please.
Yeah, everybody in favor of Thomas being the director of the team? Aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. That motion is carried. Oops, we forgot to second it. Who wanted to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
All right, so formally accepted.
Could I ask where Thomas is located?
I'm in Sarasota,
Okay.
County, the real county.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll help out when I can, even though I'm 3 hours away. But just tell me where I got to be at what time. I yield.
Objection.
You have the floor. The objection has the floor.
We should not tell exactly where the person is located, and that is for the safety of everybody. You know that this is a public conference, and we don't know who is listening, and probably we have somebody who really loves us and would like to know where is the person. So we should avoid to tell who is where. I yield.
I second that.
Good point.
Okay, did you make that in the form of a motion or just a recommendation?
It's like I make it as a motion, yes, not a recommendation. That should be the rule of law among us.
Okay, so that we can talk about the state they're in, but not the county or the address.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion, please?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed say nay. Okay, that motion is carried. So from this day forward, we are not to communicate any details about where anyone is located, and that will have to be done offline by separate method, whether it's voice or email.
Clarification.
Yes.
Is that only business concerning the assembly, or is that all business?
I think it's meant to be all business conducted on this call because it's an open call.
So then when you say what's going on in Charlotte or what's going on in Highlands, people talk up and they're going to know they're there.
That's a problem.
Well, not necessarily. You are talking about the place, but you're not telling who is in there.
Well, it's fairly obvious if you listen to our historical calls that the people that are in the counties they live in are the ones that are going to speak for that county. For example, the people...
All right, we'll fix that. We'll put numbers on each county, 1 through 67.
That's confusing.
Well, what do you suggest?
I think maybe just assembly business. I mean, otherwise...
May I?
I don't know. It's just my opinion. I yield.
May I?
Yes, someone asked for the floor. Go ahead.
We're going to need to know the counties of people involved in. We don't need to know their address. But without being able to say the county, you might as well not even say Florida either. Right. I mean, we got to have a way to contact. I'm interested. I'm in Polk County now, and I'm interested in working with someone or whatever it takes. We're losing our freedom daily. Mm-hmm. If we stall another year, we can forget it. Mm-hmm. Something's got to happen. I believe I had told you all that the sheriff came out and stood by while code enforcement removed property. The sheriff says we're not seizing it. He was correct. They were stealing it. They did not have a warrant. He said he didn't need one. Now, that's where we're at, folks. The sheriff's department sent the deputy out there, and they know better. There's no way around a warrant. No way. There's no exception there. But the ones with the guns, they believe there is, and that's what we're up against, folks.
If I may, do we have, by any chance, a victim that's willing to write an affidavit? Okay, let's talk about that offline, and we'll get the wheels turning.
Can I get your phone number? Or?
Sure. 941 526 6680.
526 6. What was the last number?
680.
6680.
Correct.
And 941.
Correct.
Okay, I'll call you after this call.
Very good.
That's more specific than a county phone number.
I yield.
Thank you.
May I?
Yes.
Okay, Thomas here. I agree with the last person who said it is important that we know what county assembly area we're speaking about. And I give my name as Thomas. Roger, I think you're the only one of the group who really knows my full name. So, and you know my email address. I don't have a problem with that. And I think it is important for us to represent our lawful county in assembly by referring to our county and just using first names. I yield.
If I may, I motion to accept that as the standard.
I second it.
Wait a minute. Could you clearly state the motion, please, Don?
Sure. I motion to accept the idea that we are should not be under threat to disclose the county that the assembly is representing on the call. We don't have to worry about that. But when it comes to one of the people, and someone with a trade name or a name or some occurrence or some incident, we should not, as Joaquin pointed out, be discussing matters like that. So to sum it up, it's okay to talk about what county you're from and report from it. You just avoid using people and incidents and specifics unless you do that. And that's why we now have a director over there who's going to coordinate that and make sure that there's a communication, something set up, use Skype or whatever, and, provide numbers where information can flow offline, off the meeting. So I'm motioning to accept that that's acceptable.
Okay, I hate to do this to you, but could you restate the motion in one or two clear sentences?
Sure. I motion to accept the use of county assembly reporting on the call and identifying themselves as county assemblies.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any debate? Any discussion?
I have some debate.
Yeah, may I?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I was curious where people were located, because if I want to join somebody, a group, I want to make sure it's within reasonable driving distance, because if I'm talking to somebody in Tallahassee, which is 4 or 5 hours away, it isn't practical to do it unless you do everything over the phone. But sometimes I feel it's better off we do it in person, and then there's less people listening. I yield.
Okay, any other discussion?
I have some discussion here. I think we should hold all this in abeyance for a while until we kind of maybe sort this out and maybe have a vote next week on all this, even having a leader and so forth. I think we might be in a little disarray here. I want to make sure we have our ducks in a row. I'd just like to maybe wait another week if we could do that. Fine.
Okay, so you're basically making a motion to table it for a week.
Yes.
Okay, now let me just add my 2 cents worth into the discussion. It's sounding to me like what we're really in need of is a set of simple rules that we're going to run the meetings by. And those simple rules could be used to run an assembly meeting itself in person or an assembly meeting on a telephone conference call. So I'm wondering if we what we may be facing is the need to set up a very small rules committee to come up with proposed set of rules, simple rules, that would then be our handbook for running the We the People in Assembly meetings, whether they're face-to-face or on the phone. I yield.
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
I will form it into a motion. It is so moved.
I second.
Any comments on that?
Can we put an addendum on that we'll hold in abeyance for 1 week until we do this?
Hold it in abeyance in 1 week and set up a 3-person committee to propose a set of rules that we would run the assembly meeting by.
Second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Okay, the motion is passed. Okay, open mic, any subject.
May I?
Yes.
From listening in on the Michigan Assembly teleconferences, they have a roll call. And I didn't mention it earlier, but that is also another reason that we should be able to mention counties. And sorry, that's a little bit presented in the true assembly for Florida. So I yield. Thanks.
May I?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, Roger. It's John again. Earlier you were talking about that fellow out in Montana who's a private person and supposedly went back a few generations. Did you happen to get any details about his lifestyle? Because living off-grid like that, I've learned from people that I see that are trying it, it's a very difficult life. And that's my first question. I have one more follow-up after that.
Okay, I have not gone into depth with him, but I can tell you from observing his behavior that he travels across the country freely. Whether he ever flies or not, I don't know. But
people have a bank account, for example, and a power company and an internet service.
I don't know any
like
of
that?
those answers, details. No, I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, my second question, Roger, is I don't know if you're aware of a lady named Jackie Fig, or anybody on the call aware of her?
Spell the last name, please.
F like Frank, I-G-G.
No, not familiar.
Oh, yeah.
She has a Facebook page. It's called Internally Displaced People. And her whole thing is about becoming a private person, how you can do it and live off-grid without a license, without paying taxes, getting your property private, not paying property taxes. If a cop stops you, he's going to let you go because you're not even in the system, because he can only contract with the other artificial people, and you're not even in the system. And so that kind of is the same alley that you were talking about earlier, private people. I yield.
Okay, so it's Jackie, Jackie.
No, it's a very weird spelling for the first name. It's J like John, A-U, Q. Oh, wait a second. It's such a weird spelling. Okay, here it is. I'm sorry. Start over. Jacquie. Jackie Fig.
Jackie Fig, F-I-G-G.
Yes.
No. F like Frank, I, G like good, G like good.
Right. Okay.
And the name of her Facebook page is Internally Displaced People.
Got it.
And they're trying to put together a website called PrivateLife.how. PrivateLife.how. And it will be teaching people how to go from the artificial side of your straw man, your all cap name, to the private person and get out of their system completely, as well as live a normal life. Well, get a bank account and stuff like that.
Very good.
It's very, very, very complicated, but it's very interesting. Anyway, I yield.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
May I?
Yes.
Folks, this past week, the state representative for New Hampshire, Richard Marple, he was carried through the traffic court 4 different times and told them each time that it was illegal, requiring a license and all. Well, him being a representative, he went back and they passed a House bill this week, and the House bill is 1778. New Hampshire, you can look it up on the computer. They no longer use tags nor driver's license in New Hampshire. It passed 287 to nothing. Everyone there voted for it. They clarified driving. There is no license required to travel in an automobile, and they pointed out that any controversies from auto accidents or whatever will be under common law. There can be no speeding tickets or nothing in that order because there's no one damaged. See what I'm saying? Anyway, go online, see if you can find that. That's very, very interesting.
What's a good search term?
If the state wants you to have a license and a tag, they got to send it to you with no cost. The tag has to have a sticker on it. Tax exempt forever. Private property, consumer goods.
Yep.
What's a good search term?
Only commercial vehicles is supposed to be licensed in any state. They word it so you can't understand it, and they put it on everyone. In proposing his bill, he had to show the amount of money involved. They losing $192 million from tag fees, license fees, and inspection fees. And he also put in the bill that there could not be no vehicle inspections for private automobiles.
Okay,
I yield.
Do you yield?
Yes, I yield.
Someone wants to ask you. Go ahead.
That's all right.
I yield. I'm going to just look up New Hampshire no license and tag and see what that brings up.
Yep.
It was
Roger.
It was number 1778, I believe.
Yes, 1778. Yes.
What is that number reference?
HB in front of it.
What is C in front of it? What is that number reference?
HB. House bill.
A House bill. New Hampshire House bill. Oh, great. Thank you.
It actually takes effect the 10th of this month, May. 60 days. See, it was passed 2 months ago. It has to go 60 days, then it becomes law. I suppose we could call motor vehicles in New Hampshire and find out about it after the 10th.
Roger, did you read about this in an article or something, or how did you find out about this?
No, on the computer. There is thousands and thousands of people challenging the driver's license. It is illegal. Wow. I've got court rulings. It states traveling, and I've got 2 court rulings, Supreme Court rulings, that states driving is a right. So you got it either way, see?
Thank you. I yield.
Yeah, Roger, may I?
Yes.
I'm from New Hampshire. It's been 25 years up there. He's right. We just had that law up on the books on the internet, Diane did, and that applies to commercial vehicles only.
I'm sorry, you're saying what applies to commercial vehicles?
The driver's license and tags is required for commercial vehicles only.
Okay.
Your private conveyance of the day is always going to be license free. They can't tax and license a right.
So hopefully this could be the start of a major wave across the nation.
I could imagine the states beside them is going to want it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And it should catch on like wildfire. Their scam is over.
Wouldn't that be cool?
It also pointed out that no bar member would be allowed to challenge any of it. Yeah, so that the bar is our problem, folks.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as a bar license. It's a bar membership card. The judge is a member, and your attorney is too. And what you don't know is it's a club that they only run their bylaws by.
Yep.
Some states require licenses for bar.
Sir?
Some states require a license on top of the bar registration.
Well, I know they call it a license, but I'm going to the courthouse tomorrow to find a license for a judge I've had a problem with.
Right.
I want to see the oath of office and a copy of his bar license.
There you
go. Oath of office, bond, bar card, and unencumbered property for sale to cover the bond. Those are the requirements in Florida.
I suspect she ain't got it. These attorneys are using their knowledge and power and the power of seizing your property, putting liens on it because they hold the records down there,
Yep.
And that's how they got you. I was in awe when the sheriff stood by with his hand on his gun, said, "You raised one finger to interfere." They opened the chain link gates and went in. When we told him he needed a warrant, he said that we're not seizing it. They even loaded up the man's lawnmower.
Okay.
Because it was outside storage.
All right. Would you yield, please?
Yield. I yield.
Thank you.
Okay. Roger, would you explain that to him one more time and have him write it down so he does it? Don't complain about what happened, but have him write down that he has to get the oath of office, he has to get the bond, he has to get unencumbered property, but he needs to write that down and ask for it in writing.
We're going to have a conversation after this call, so I will come.
Okay. All right. I yield. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. What was the name of that congressman or whatever that brought all that?
In New Hampshire?
Yeah.
I don't know the name. Could you, whoever told us about that, could you tell us the name of the state rep?
Yes, sir. It's Richard Dick Marple. M-A-R-P-L-E.
M-A-R-P-L-E. Marple. Dick?
Yes.
Dick Marple.
My daughter, Roger, may I?
Yes.
My daughter is town manager in Sandown, New Hampshire. I'll give her a call tomorrow and try to get the lowdown on all this. She'll have the latest regulations on it. Okay?
Very good. Thank you.
I'll send you an email.
Great. Appreciate it. Last call. Any subject? Hearing none? Yes.
Have you ever listened to Chris Ann Hall on the explanation of the Magna Carta and how it marries into the Constitution?
I'm not sure I've heard her speak about that. I have talked with her face-to-face about we the people have the right to establish our own grand juries, and she disagrees, unless she's changed her opinion recently. At the time Terry Trussell's trial was going on, she attended, and I had a face-to-face discussion with her. She's been trained as a bar attorney, although she's not practicing now. And at that time, in 2014-2015, she claimed that we do not have the right, even though there's a Supreme Court decision validating that we do, but she claimed, no, the people don't have the right to do their own grand jury.
He's absolutely right.
Yeah, that's her position, but we need to talk to her more about it. I yield.
Okay, folks, I really appreciate your support and your attendance. Last call, any questions, comments?
Is there any update on Terry Trussell's situation?
Great question. Mr. Root, any update on Terry?
No, I checked about 2 days ago, I think. There's no written opinion yet. So I think 60 days is up pretty quick here. With that, I'll yield.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, I'd like to thank you all for attending the call. Appreciate your support. Wish you a great night and talk with you next week. Thanks again.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I just wanted you to know that I am using this stuff under fair use. And also remember to like and subscribe this channel. Also too, keep in mind I do not make any money on YouTube. This is 5 hours work a day, you know, fighting for freedom. And you can donate with PayPal and Patreon. I just want you to think about this. If everybody gives to PayPal and Patreon, Patreon is every month. Actually, PayPal you can do every month. I have 12,000 subscribers. If everybody gives, I can quit my regular job and go full-time investigations on Charlotte County and possibly even more and beyond. So just keep that in mind. If everybody helps out, I can go full-time doing this. Thanks.